Simply because of who they were supplying services to, they became a target. The attackers got 40 million people's card details. I'm Eliza-May Austin. I'm the CEO and co-founder of a cybersecurity startup called That Security Company. We work with suppliers from all different sizes that supply to larger conglomerates to make sure that that entire supply chain is hardened. Sometimes we do that on behalf of the larger conglomerate, and sometimes we do it just on behalf of the smaller supplier themselves. So a supply chain attack is literally what it says on the tin. It's a method of trying to get to a larger company that has the capacity to defend themselves, whereas the smaller companies may not. So for example, take a cinema. That may be a chain, and they'll have banners and logos everywhere. They'll have the same popcorn machine in every single store. They'll have the same tills, the same card machines, maybe even the same company that supplies the canvases that the films are portrayed on. They have to align themselves to a particular standard. In order to do that, they need to set up vendor relationships. Let's say, for example, the projector is developed and sold to them by a particular vendor. The tills and the card payment machines will probably be loaned from a financial company. And all of these companies that they're doing business with become part of their supply chain. Let's take that projector, for example. That's got to be made somewhere. Someone's going to make that. That machine is then sold to a distributor. They'll then buy it through a distributor. So there's all of these different endpoints that are viable attack bases. So all of those smaller supply companies will have significantly less funds and capabilities to defend themselves compared to the big customer, which is the actual aim of the attack.
One of the ways the attackers compromise the software that's going to be used by other businesses is to get into the systems of the software developers and compromise the development environment. Malicious code is getting injected into the software, and then after that it ends up on the other businesses' networks and makes their networks compromised as well.
Target are a large retailer based in the United States. They had a supplier that supplied them with their air conditioning units to their major stores. That supplier in particular was compromised via a phishing email. Upon them being compromised, the attackers were able to find routes into their customers, their most notable customer being Target. In order to monitor the air conditioning units that they had in the stores, they had to have a certain degree of remote access into those air conditioning units. Those units were, unfortunately, kept on the same network as everything else in the stores. The attackers were able to go through the supplier that wasn't their end goal, to get through to Target, to then see what else they had access to. They managed to gain access to point-of-sale devices, so that's tills and card machines, inject malware, which is just malicious software, and pull card details from the memory of those machines. I think they got 40 million people's card details just from attacking one company. And that was, I'm sure, not a supplier that Target would have thought of in a million years to be the kind of supplier that would be compromised. And I'm sure that supplier themselves didn't think that they were a target. And simply because of who they were supplying services to, they became one. So approximately 80% of all attacks that you hear about in the news can be defended against just with simple basic hygiene. So making sure that your systems are up to date, whether it's software or hardware, making sure that you're limiting your attack surface. So if something shouldn't be available on the internet, don't put it on the internet. Have audits of your passwords. Make sure that they're complex. Make sure you've got two-factor authentication enabled. Have a joiners, movers, leavers process. If someone leaves, get rid of their information. If someone moves within the company, make sure you're taking the privileges away that they technically had and giving them the privileges specifically for that role. Yes, your employees can be the weakest link in your organisation. They can also be the strongest if they're trained appropriately.